Hi, everyone. So my name is Gustavo Ordóñez, and I have to step in as moderator because John was not feeling well today. So I have some questions, but I don't have as many questions as Richard had prepared. So I'm very much hoping that you guys will also participate and ask questions yourselves. But before we start asking questions, I'm going to let the panel introduce themselves quickly. Romeo, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. My name is Romeo Radanyi, director from the newly created quantum function that we have at Moody's. My background is actually cloud, and probably I'm the only one here who's not heavily either have a PhD in physics or quantum technology. So I'm pretty new to the field as well, but learning throughout these few days as well. And yeah, my main role is pretty much focused on how do we connect the dots between the potential in quantum computing and the opportunities there, and our classical products, which are used in the market already. And I will be also supporting our quantum researchers and how they develop quantum computing related algorithms.
Mekena, yeah.
Hi, my name is Mekena Metcalf. I am a quantum computing research scientist at HSBC. My background, I have a PhD in theoretical atomic physics, and I was previously a staff scientist at Lawrence Berkeley Lab, working in quantum information science and quantum technology. And I joined HSBC about 6 months ago. So I am new to the financial services industry, but a tenured quantum information scientist. And I would say I made the leap because I wanted to be able to see how we could have a real impact in society using quantum computers.
So yeah, hello and welcome everyone. So my name is Achraf Seddik. I'm a research scientist within Crédit Agricole Corporate and Investment Bank. I came actually from a statistical modeling background. I've done a PhD on statistical modeling. I've been working in the financial industry now for maybe around 10 years, and I joined Crédit Agricole CIB for around 4 years now. So I've been leading the use case and the proof of concept from a technical point of view of quantum computing. The proof of concept, like the use case that I shown you earlier about the application of quantum computing to risk in a real-world use case.
Thank you. Okay, so here my first question is, watching your presentations, I noticed a pattern that is that the early use cases seem to be very much related to quantum machine learning. So, and I think this is something that everybody would agree that is likely to be one of the early applications of quantum computing in finance. But if you had to choose what would be the killer application for the banking industry across the domains or the areas of expertise, what would that be?
Well, it's not an easy question to say, to find really that killer application. I think for us in Crédit Agricole, the main use cases that we were thinking about, they are about mainly about optimization and improving the speed of computations and making models more interpretable. These seems to be the most promising use cases of application. And yeah, in the use case we have presented, we have shown some value that quantum computing brings. So we think this could be really very interesting and promising for the future.
Okay, so anyone else wants to add another killer app?
I guess we were co-presenting on some of the use cases, but I guess from us, right? What we're definitely looking at is how can we combine our existing practical products and just provide even access to quantum computing through those platforms that researchers already use today to do their own calculations, whether that's in the machine learning space or the analytical space, right? Because then you can start to even gather expectations on whether users would even try to do research with your existing products infused with quantum potentially. And for that, you don't actually really need to even figure out any individual algorithm just yet, but rather combine the two, right? In terms of classical and the quantum capabilities and the hardwares. Machine learning, I think we mentioned it as well. certainly generative modeling is one of those areas where it could be interesting, and augmenting data sets and creating synthetic data, because potentially you could do it maybe faster, but yeah, or you need to try it, do some POCs and see.
Thank you. Mekena, do you have any?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably just going to be echoing in terms of, a third of our use cases are optimization for a reason. Specifically, if we're able to get faster or more accurate solutions, then this can lead to a large amount of money saved within the group. I will say selfishly, in terms of what I think is a killer app, I'm very curious in quantum networking and thinking about how we can speed up market transactions, maybe from a research perspective, using quantum networking protocols.
Interesting, okay. So, Achraf, you mentioned interpretability as one of the areas where you think quantum computer could help. So that would, I assume you mean within the machine learning type of models.
Right.
So how can you elaborate on that, please?
Yeah, so interpretability, that could be actually one point of view, one way of seeing interpretability of models is actually, for instance, by having models that are less complex in their design, but they give as much performance, a similar performance, or even higher performance. For instance, an example we have, we had a model that the initial model we have in production used 1,200 weak learners, 1,200 models. And then using a quantum machine learning algorithm and the quantum hardware, we find we had a model that has similar performance, but only with 50 weak learners. So going from that much weak learners to this less weak learners using the quantum algorithm makes it easier even for an analyst. When we have that model, we give it to an analyst who uses the model and you want to explain the results of the model. It's much easier to explain when you have that easy model. So that's one way. So the models are by their construction, so they're easier to explain. And then also in terms of results, we can have, for instance, in the financial industry, we can have in terms of the variables that are used to within the model, we can have variables that are more, more closer to the point of view of analysts and experts from a financial point of view. So that makes the model even more interpretable economically and financially. That's my point.
Thank you. Mekena, I noticed in your presentation that one of the use cases you listed, which is something that I'm familiar with as well, but I think it's such an interesting use case that I'd like you to elaborate on it if you can, is the ATM replenishment optimization. It was the ATM cash replenishment.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
In ours, we were looking at doing that in terms of a digital annealing solution. And I think the question was, we actually didn't end up pursuing it in the sense that organizationally, we were wondering, are we going to be really using ATMs in the future? Is that something that's a technology of the future or a technology of the past? So to echo a statement from our director is, why use the technology of the future to solve the problems of the past?
That's interesting, yeah. But it's interesting because it's a very complex model problem today, right? Because you have to sort of predict when the ATM is going to run out of cash, and then combine that with a traveling salesman problem, which is plan the most effective route of the money track to get to this. So it's a fascinating problem from a mathematical point of view, but you're right. It is
And I think it would be interesting to find these traveling salesman type problems, but to find use cases in different areas. I think that's one of the things we're looking at, specifically around things on a global scale, as we start to think about the supply chain side. I think that's something where that would be an interesting use case.
Cool. Okay. Thank you. So changing topics a little bit, but and I don't know whether you are at full, whether you can disclose this completely, but maybe you can give us a sense. what is the level of resources that your organizations have committed to quantum?
So from our side, actually, we are one of the points we have pushed headlight on is like improving the knowledge of the staff we have inside the company about the knowledge of quantum computing. That's the first axis of development of the staff and the budget, like from staff that we have. We also work with we actually trying to improve, especially we want to have inside the company the people that are that have the knowledge, especially about the algorithmic part. Well, the hardware part is good for us to understand. We try to have to raise knowledge about it, but it's not like the most priority for now. As we are a financial institution, we are a bank, so it's not the priority. And we try to work with the people who have the knowledge. I want to, for instance, we work with multiverse computing, or here with us in the room. And also with Pascal, who have the quantum hardware. And so I think inside the company we want to have to raise knowledge, to have people who understand and have the algorithmic knowledge. And on the hardware part, we want to gather knowledge from academia, from other partners that can help us on these tasks.
Okay.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we have commitment over a several year time horizon for our quantum program. So for instance, we're part of the IBM Quantum Accelerator program. So that's a multi-year program. You know, we've hired quantum scientists, including myself. We're able to have a couple graduate analysts work with us. So that's like, you know, funds commitments in terms of building up a team and committing to that team for multiple years. We have, within some of those programs, we have the educational side. And then we have, you know, I would say a lean amount of money to be able to develop POCs and support some of the business lines in those areas. I think in an ideal situation would be able to partner with those business lines, connect them with within this like quantum computing ecosystem to external partners, and have them be able to support through their own business line. So it's not coming out of one source, but it's kind of a network of support throughout the organization.
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's very similar as well, right? I mean, we built a small team that can focus on the research, but also identifying the use case and working together with our existing product teams internally to, well, first of all, to evangelize the potential in quantum computing and have to educate both leadership, but also the development teams and anyone across the company, frankly, about quantum computing, which is probably going to be a pretty long journey as well. And then we also looking at potential vendors and you know, partners that we could be working with as well, because we know that it's not something that you would do like alone. Not to mention, if you're talking about the hardware providers as well, like you're most likely already working with some of the cloud providers if your classical resources are running there. So, you know, looking at where are the overlaps there, for example, but also in terms of the quantum hardware providers as well, because you're definitely not going to buy one and have one in your data center, right? So you need to figure out who would you be collaborating to get the best out of those capabilities. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
Thank you. So if you know, now that we are in different economic outlook with respect to the beginning of the year, how do you see that impacting these multi-year plans or strategies around quantum computing? Do you think that the investment is going to come down? Is going to be, or do you think that you have a strong enough use case that you're going to be able to maintain that level of investment, or even increase it?
Well, on our side, actually, our management decides on the budgets on a yearly basis. So each year we decide, okay, what the budgets will be, we're putting on each of our projects. And our management have a pragmatic approach. We want to put budget on the projects and the results and the initiatives that will bring value to us. So this is done actually on a yearly basis, and each year we try to adapt and try, okay, what are the the view for each year. So for now, yeah, I don't have the information at this moment, but it's going to be decided for the next year, like in this period.
Thank you.
Yeah, same for our organization. It's decided on an annual level, so we do know that we're going to have budget commitment for next year to continue what we've been working on. I think the question of growth really relies on showing some value in terms of, optimistically we find something that can actually save or generate some money. Realistically, we're able to produce new knowledge and patents that the organization considers valuable, and then they will grow from there. But I would say for now it's going to be consistent, but we will need to be lean.
Yeah, I mean, so it depends on the value we can generate, but also like how do we define value for now as well? Because it's not like you could generate any additional revenue, right? So the return on investment right now is a very, very interesting one to justify as well if you're asking for more investments. But ultimately, you also don't want to be left behind, right? So you need to make sure that you have the right amount of investment, that you can actually progress in the space enough, that when something would actually have a breakthrough, you could actually end up using it. So yeah, we have to make sure that we do a great job and we provide a benefit to the company as well. And yeah.
Okay. So related to this, what is the view or perception of quantum computing and the usefulness of quantum computing at the senior management level in your organizations?
For us, we see it clearly as an opportunity. And the opportunity as it allows us to improve the accuracy and the speed of our computations. But again, yeah, our management have a pragmatic approach, and we need all the time to, each time, to prove the usefulness of these approaches, and yeah, to see for each, it needs to bring value actually. If it brings value, they are okay to go through it. That's the thing.
Yeah, I think it's really useful to have a roadmap. The leadership do know that the killer apps that they hear about on the news are on a longer term time horizon, but you need to have milestones along the way to show that you're making progress to that. You can't just bet completely on the future, at least from a leadership perspective, to maintain consistent investment in your program. So I would say we've been hitting marks and setting realistic milestones to be able to meet that. And I think we have to be very wise in how we craft results and our statements so that we don't overpromise. And it's interesting because maybe like when you're talking to a CEO within the group, what you think maybe like, oh yeah, of course they realize that this isn't, is a long-term time horizon. You really got to be very wise in how you word statements about improvements in accuracy or speed to be able to manage those expectations at the top. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is two sides to it, right? Like there is definitely the value proposition and the benefit that it can provide in the future, but also there is the defensive side of it, right? I mean, it is a threat too, right? So I think you also have to invest into how you're going to protect some of the most crucial assets, and that requires some education to the senior leadership level as well. So they appreciate that, hey, this is actually dangerous, right? If we do not create an inventory of our existing assets and understand where quantum might be causing a problem in the future, if they can break into some of the encryption protocols or protected channels, then yeah, we need to invest into that as well. But also on the flip side, in terms of the benefits, absolutely. I think we need to make sure that we are not hyping it up too much and being conservative about what we're trying to do. It's almost like being the perfect mix in between an idealist and a realist, right? Like how can you ensure that you're showing some value in terms of your research, but at the same time, you're not over-promising in terms of what you can deliver based on the existing ecosystem and the hardware limitations and the software limitations and the challenges that's existing out there. Or maybe you end up gaining some benefits from that research to just apply in your classical domain. And I think we have heard before, like there were some successes by using quantum-inspired algorithms, which really means just making some classical capabilities better. And that's definitely something that could be viable. And maybe the quantum group will end up figuring that out, right? It doesn't necessarily require actually using quantum computing or algorithms for that as well. So yeah.
Okay, so going back on this hype, and it was discussed quite some length in the previous panel, but I wanted to get your views on this. And in the previous panel, it was mentioned that quadratic speedups are not likely going to be enough. So Monte Carlo type of applications for finance are probably very far into the future. But if sub-exponential speedups are not going to be enough, the application cone gets very, very narrow. So I wanted to get your views on that. Should we just concentrate on developing or focus on those use cases where you could actually have that exponentially speed up, but that would require a very narrow view or scope of the what can bring advantage through quantum to a financial institution. Focus on new algorithm research to actually find wider applications, perhaps. What are your views on this?
Well, I think from our point of view, there are two phases. There is a phase on the short term, and there are another phase maybe on the long term. So on the short term, maybe we need to concentrate on those use cases that bring the most value, and try to convince our top management and convince also all the people that they use quantum computer, that quantum computer is useful. And we need to, for now, we need to concentrate maybe on those aspects who are the most valuable. But at the same time, we need to prepare for the future, where maybe, we don't know, when we have like a universal quantum computer, and maybe you will have even it will be generalized. Quantum computers will be more generalized to other use cases, everywhere in the company. So we need to be ready also, and to transpose all those use cases to quantum computers. So I think at the short term, we need to concentrate on those who will bring us the more value, and narrow, as you said, the scope of use cases to those who are more valuable for quantum computers, but at the same time prepare the future.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth limiting the scope, right? Because I think there's a lot of opportunity for discovery still within this area, to limit ourselves to only what is known at the moment, to have like super polynomial speed up. So and also we have these asymptotic bounds, but it's very interesting to think about when you actually put these into practice, right? So again, to limit yourself with these asymptotics, and not allow yourself to explore and see what new areas you could open up. Maybe there's new ways to represent these models on quantum computers we haven't thought about yet. I would say that there's room for continued exploration in there, and I would think that we're definitely taking that approach within our organization, and I think within the industry, quantum industry as a whole.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. I think that, maybe making a bit of a hyperbole, but when Turing was developing his ideas around computation, he could not foresee, these banking apps or Facebooks, were going to pop on the back of that. And I think that how quantum is going to change the financial industry is not known yet, and we need to explore. I need to play with the technology and develop further insight and explore the limits of the hardware in order to actually spark our imaginations. Okay, so going back to the senior management, how important do you think is having sponsorship from the leadership team, direct sponsorship for the success of quantum programs at large financial institutions?
Go ahead,
Yeah, I can speak to that. So we have executive level support from the CEO of Europe, and I think it is really important to have that. In some sense, it gives you credibility to your program. They also are willing to help make connections, especially in a large global organization that you as a small team might not have. Like, hey, you should talk to so-and-so, hey, you should talk to so-and-so, maybe getting you in the room with global heads so that you could talk about, and evangelize quantum computing. And when times get rocky, you can rely on them to be supportive of your organization. So I think that having that support is really important, as well as support of global heads of the use cases that we're developing. So it's not just that exec level support for our program, but directorate level support for our projects.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yeah, no, I think it's crucial, right? Because you're most likely going to drain away some time from the existing product teams as well, right? Because you need to end up collaborating with some of those capabilities that's already out there, but also maybe getting access to certain data sets and working with those development teams. We require you to be empowered to even carve out some sprints or even some time from those researchers to work with you, or even frankly to even understand the products where your use case potentially could be viable, and taking the time to even get educated in terms of quantum computing. So I think executive sponsorship and empowerment is absolutely crucial, but also giving you the platform to educate and then create materials and help with everything that's needed to actually evangelize the technology stack. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, so it turns out that I actually have plenty of questions to fill up the next 10 minutes, but I would like to actually ask you if you have any questions to the panel.
Where are you running your jobs, your programs?
So you're going to get a mic. You can.
So I'm curious where you're running your quantum programs. Are you mostly on a simulator? Are you running it on different modalities? Talk about the hardware.
So yeah, for the use case we presented earlier, so we made actually work jointly with multiverse computing and Pascal computing. And so Pascal provided us a quantum hardware with the natural atoms technology. And so we use this hardware actually in two of our projects, and we apply them to finance use cases. And so actually there is a part which is quantum machine learning part, which is done on Python, and training quantum like models. And then there is another part which is related to the hardware, so transferring this quantum machine learning part to the hardware. And that's done, with the help of Pascal and Multiverse. That's enough of this answers your question.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to answer this question because I feel like I've been on a soapbox during this conference, specifically around access to hardware, in the sense that. So I would say, in terms of people within the bank, we have access to IBM's, quantum hardware, and if someone wants to figure out, how do I run a QAOA algorithm, I can go do that. As a team, though, we really want to be able to do meaningful calculations on quantum hardware. A lot of us already have experience in this area. We don't need to play around with it to see how it works. And so to do meaningful calculations within the group means doing meaningful calculations with real banking data. And that is not a possibility. So for instance, to be able to access actual data for my use case, I had to really convince them that I am working on a simulator, I am working on a laptop, this is in your local environment that you trust, and therefore I can actually do, just in simulation alone, but like meaningful calculations to see how quantum machine learning will actually work in practice. And so that's what I've been going around talking to hardware providers about. What is your plan for data security? Like, how will I one day, if we all of a sudden have quantum advantage tomorrow, it's going to take me a long time to be able to run anything of internal data on hardware. So I think it'll be fun if we come up with new algorithms and we want to test them out. Like, I think it'll be, do we want to use Mollman-Sorensen gates, and do we need all-to-all connectivity? We'll use an ion trap, right? Do we want to do max cut problems? Maybe we'll go look at cold atom quantum computers. But if we actually want to use something internally with meaningful data, I don't think that's a possibility at the moment.
Actually, that's a very good point. I think that's something that the industry needs to think about, because convincing their data security team at a large financial organization to use third-party tool through Bracket, which for them is a fourth-party tool. Right now would require probably years of convincing them of why it is actually a secure way of putting banks' data into a domain where they lose absolute control of that data. So yeah, absolutely. This is something that the industry as a whole would need to start thinking about.
Yeah.
Well, it's a very important task actually. I mean, the security of the data, that's true. But for our use cases, we had really the chance actually to work with anonymized data. We worked really on real business use case. Actually, we compared the model which is used in production. With the same data, we put it on quantum hardware, and we obtained results. We anonymized actually the data. We tried to make it through the security issues, and we had these results.
Yeah, and also I guess maybe just one point to add there is the fact that you have all these different hardware providers, right? I mean, you're probably not too keen to have access to every single one of them, so different authentication mechanism, right? So looking at capability and platform providers who can help to obfuscate some of those challenges away as well is definitely something that's interesting. I mean, surely the cloud providers are working on doing some of that, but equally not all the hardware are actually accessible to that. So you kind of have to make a choice as well. What does that mean for you? Like, do you have to have individual access to like IBM Cloud, Rigetti, IonQ, or you end up utilizing some platform that end up making it maybe simpler for your researchers internally to not have to deal with all sorts of authentication mechanisms or where to store and grab the data that you might be needing to transfer over to that hardware provider. So it's a very interesting space, and hoping for more consolidation around that as well. So,
please go ahead.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd love to get you to take your quantum hat off for a second and put on your finance hat. And could you tell me, forgetting about the capabilities of quantum computing, if there was one particular problem that you could solve that's really costing your institution an awful lot, what would that problem be?
I think the main problems that face the there are lots of problems, but certainly the problems that cost the most money, or that can bring the most money, these are the most priority maybe use cases. So for us, I think pricing problems, they are very important. Pricing financial instruments. Portfolio optimization also for asset managers is very, very important. And risk models are important. I think at the end, at least from my point of view, is if you arrive to an optimization problem, if you can find a new advantage, a quantum advantage of doing a new advantage of doing optimization on quantum computer, that's where we can say we win. So for me, problems are at the end of the day. If you have an optimization problem, try to see how quantum computers work. So it's about that for me.
I'm gonna be selfish here because I come from the quantum side, right? So I've been more doing discovery of what I think is interesting and important within FS. And I was doing some research, and it was 4 to 5% of the UK GDP is laundered money, and there's like $1 trillion of laundered money within the world. I'm looking off of a report. I'm trying to remember. There was a report I was looking at for that, and I am really curious to see how we could use quantum computing to both help in feature discovery for anti-money laundering, being able to reduce false positives in terms of flagging money laundering or sanction evasion activities. And I also, from a mathematical perspective, think it's super interesting because it's graph time series, which I just think is a fun problem to solve. So yeah, that's my answer.